Hey everyone, hope everybody's doing well, blessed, and enjoying family. As always, thank you to all for everyone's words, wishes, prayers, as the love and support everyone sends and shares with me. From the heart, thank you. Also, for those new to the channel, if the message is somewhat to your liking and it's understandable, please do like, share, subscribe, and hype the video in the hopes the message would get out and reach ears that it could be helpful, right? But anyways, getting right into it. Today I want to touch on something I was requested through the comments, right? From uh, from a friend, I'll just say that. And basically he's requesting me to touch more on the England Empire. And I do understand, I try to stick to an area even though maybe the times lapses from one end to another, but I just try to make sense of what I'm speaking by not jumping around so much, right? And I know I've been touching on the England Empire, but not like I should, right? So today I want to touch on the first time I personally had run-ins with Gibby, or should I say my celly, right? Again, I'll take you back to Corcoran after I have gotten there from Salinas Valley. My celly right away was a homie from Upland, uh, youngster, right? He was my second to last celly before they hit me with the second validation, right? Right before I moved in with the homie Silent from Walnut, right? And basically the homie, it was his second shoe turn, right? According to what we sat down and talked, just getting to know each other as it's meant to be inside a cell, right? The homie was a level 3 and picked up a lot of nonsense write up, right? For example, not going to work, drinking, and after so many write ups, there was a riot, with the woods, and he ended up picking a shoe turn. As everyone know, once you're in the shoe kick out, you're gonna go to a 180. It don't matter from what level you come from. Now, as the homie hits a 180, at the moment it's the time where Pilis were hungry. They wanted to tap into the neighborhoods, to the streets. So if you knew people in touch with the Pili, your name was going to get up there. If you were somewhat decent, soldado, nothing wrong with you, they were going to try to pull you point blank, right? And it makes sense, Gibby having his Redlands, right? And struggling with Toro, let's just be sincere, and wanted to expand, right? So he started communicating with the young homie. So again, there was another riot, and he would end up back in the shoe. Is when our paths met, right? And we became Sally on the bottom tier in B section. I believe it was cell 123 or 24. Anyways, we were there, and he was a good dude. Not gonna call him youngster, a youngster, because he was my age, but that was his placazo, right? And we went out to yard. You know, I had always had the tip, to call out the rutina and had the yard. You guys know, had responsibilities, right? For Artie at the moment there in on AR, right? I was supporting him, and it really was the beginning where Artie was in eggshells, right? Basically, he didn't like to hear there's other soldados for other pilis there because he would right away try to make you fall in line and pledge loyalty to him, right? And only him. And if not, he would send you on a mission. But you could tell cracks, right? What I mean by cracks, I've said stories before how Terco, without saying no word, he had one of Artie's soldados whacked right up upstairs from me, right? Between Shadow and Osito from 18. And basically on this yard, there was an individual from Redlands, right? Um, Moreno, yeah, he was older than myself. I don't know what he did wrong, but that I'm appeal that was supposed to come through Artie, right? Didn't. Gibby bypass Artie for obvious reasons, right? The Bay was Machingon que Corcoran type of thing they had going, and got the homie youngster. And the homie, I guess, had already told him, I'm sealed up with the guy with the responsibilities of a yard, and is here with me. We're real cool inside the cell. I'm not gonna say he was one of my best cellies, cause I would be minimizing other people, but he was definitely a good celly, right? Clean, respectful, uh, more so humble, real humble, and that's important in the cell, right? And we share them type of appeals just straight off the back, right? To me, even if the pili was request for me to hit my celly, hey, here, read it, and vámonos. No butt to ribs. I'm gonna snake you. Just let's do this. Even if I'm the one that goes feet first out the cell, right? I'm just not gonna do that. My abuelo would turn in his grave, right? But anyways, that I'm appeal stated about homie Moreno, right? That I guess before he got busted, he was moving mulas. For those that know what mulas is, you know, they were entitled for to basically pack a certain hyena to go up see Gibby, give it to the pipeline up there with no marcas need to be said, and Gibby will get it. At this time, I heard a lot of things about Gibby personally, by Raul, by Junior from Ontario, by Toro, Pilis that somewhat we had held conversations from Ai, right? And others, but that's not important. But from all the conversations I took, he was a tecato, right? Because it's what makes sense the most, and I didn't find out till I hit the bay that nah, he liked to use meth, tough, meth and soda. Me personally, you know, negra, you know, I had cellies that do it, they just blase, right, kick it and relax, but imagine being spun out all tweaked out inside a cell at least 23 hours a day in and day out. Me personally, I don't know how he kept his mind, right? He stayed solid, but I think it had to do a lot more with pride because his carnal was a member, his tío was a member, so he felt obligated, right? Because first off, Like I said before, one of the rules and regulations tough that they have imposed on camaradas or had is, I don't know if it is still there, is a camarada can't tweak. We can't use glass, meth, whatever, because if you do, you're gonna get removed. Because according to them, you're not trustworthy. You start seeing monos con trinchetes appear everywhere, and you start losing your mind more, right? And you start hurting. Let's just be real, right? But anyways, going back to youngster, I guess before Moreno got busted, there was a clavo lost that was supposed to hit the mula, and it never did. So just imagine the desperation of someone twacked out and expecting, you know, the next load to come in, and it don't come in because of your loss. Remember, when it comes to us with them, there's no losses. And if you open your mouth, you're going to do something for some reason, it goes sideways. There's no explanations, right? Especially if it has to do with taking from their habit. Because there wasn't really much money by you hitting in the bay. Let's just be sincere. It was more like personal use, right? Or in case you had woods, you hit that type of material, they'll definitely give you, you know, everything you require for it, right? But this is a mate Pili, right? Setting up there. He's always talked about being on one, being a little cuckoo. Dispense, I say like that. You know, never heard he was a J-Cat. Just him being on one, just a little bit, you know, lost. But to conclude the story, right, is the vato he was on our group yard, right, in the concrete yard, and Gibby was basically stating to homie to whack him, but really whack him, not just go and poke him a couple times and try to get away with it. No, you know, them individuals that do that, they're scary, right? Because as far as I know, you can send on a mission, is whack him, hopefully get a hold of him, put your legs around him, grab him real tight, and keep whacking him till the Judas literally beat you off the individual. That's part of being campolero, soldado, not just hit him and then run, right? Type of thing. But anyways, in my appeal, my name came up in the sense, if you tell your celly, tell him there's no need for my brother over there to hear this is a Pelican Bay issue, which it wasn't. It was a personal issue with them, right? And I was in the wrong in this one. I'll straight say it, right? It was none of my business. And second of all, it could have cost me my career if it would have became an issue with Artie. How I personally seen another Billy step foot in his wigglings in something that belonged to him, and I ain't saying nothing, right? It's when again I was a snake myself, right? I knew how to move between the lines and cracks per se, and again I never tapped myself on the back, and I'm not doing so now. As you was just part of. I always believe that when something gets laid in front of you, you gotta decide either you're for the camaradas or you're willing to have a camarada wreck his career over nada. What I mean by this, I was a lifer. I knew DA after all the things I've, done or been involved. They see it and they would laugh, right? And not pick it up. So I straight got involved in something that didn't belong to me, right? To be sincere, I told youngster, look, we're gonna go out to yard, homie. You know, you're in the cell with me. You're my cellie. I'm gonna ride with you. One, but I know the consequences. I don't want you to pick up time. So I'm gonna do it. But this is how we're gonna do it. We're gonna go out to yard. You're gonna crack the vato. Even if you just get a good solid hit on him, once you do so, pull out, punch. Literally, is just get out the way. I'll step in and I'll whack him. That way, to a sense, you're involved in the 115. Individual gets hit, remove, and then I gotta figure out how I'm gonna respond to B Yard, right? To Artie or Wolfie or Indio, whoever I had to respond to. And the homies didn't want to, right? At first, Chalice, I'm in here to stay solid, and we had this long conversation, and homie, there's nothing in here for you to stay solid. You know, this is it right here. And you know, I'm not saying put down Baja's bandera, put down the program, the causa, the movement, whatever you want to say it. No, I'm more than willing to do it because I got nothing to lose. You do. You're going home. You see, a couple months ago when Gibby got at you, he got at you because he needed you on the street. And here we are. First and foremost, you're going against the green of the person in charge of here. You're going to crash. Gibby knows this, and it's not taking you into consideration. Second of all, you picking up whatever 10, 15 more years is just the gateway of you catching all day. You know, don't disrespect me, allow me to do this, and that way I know how to answer over there and deal with the consequences, right? Again, if they question you from over there, you didn't know what was going on, period, and that's it. And you're not sidewinding, you're not weaning out, you know. I'm showing you love, showing you respect. Anyways, long story short, it's exactly what happened, right? We did rutina. Right after rutina, you know, you get in a little group, you start. The homie, I was literally next to Spider, right? And the vato was next to me. And the little homie youngster went up and, oh, you're from Redlands. And, all right, homie. And played it off. Look up at the tower. Make sure he's not already on point to give a little time. And homeboy got two good ones in, right? He didn't lay him or sat him down, but once he did that, I came from the side and just started going to town. There's no need to glorify on it, right? Because it's just part of what prison is, straight up. I did it till I counted at least 3 blocks that went out, right? Besides them speedhead grenades they throw, the shot grenades, and all them things they throw. The only thing I was worried about is that canister in the corner with the with the pepper spray or maze. That I've been sprayed with that, and whew, man, that really has you go through it, right? And even though we knew this was happening, I never saved up my meals in case of that, right? But anyways, that happened to the dot, right? And we went back, and there was a big old chorro. Believe me, hey Chino, what happened? And basically I just told him, look, homeboy was highly wanted, and I was basically told before he escaped to move on him because of a loss regarding the carnal Gibby, right? It was an ASAP type of thing. You guys know I have to go through the protocol through medical law library to get at you. It takes time. I didn't want dude to walk off, right? And basically, when Gibby sent that letter, he didn't mention no names because he knew who he was talking to, right? And I presented that Wheeler, that I'm appeal, and basically it was like, hey, next time you know better, homie. This is artist. And I told him, well, of course I know that. Ain't nobody gonna step in his toes. This was a personal request on an ASAP tip. You know, I felt the time was a go, a let's boogie now type of thing before he felt some type of way and walked, right? And anyways, believe me, I didn't get scot free. It was that time where I already was like, hey, well, all right, homie. I understand. I trust your judgment because of everything I've heard of you and everything. But to make sure this don't happen again, just shoot $300 my way. It was when you started clipping the camaradas. That included myself, right? Because of course, I paid it. It would have became a bigger issue, right? But I felt it was right, not only because he was my celly, but the homie had a release date. Throughout my whole career, I always concentrated on lifers doing what they had to do. I understand some might lose board, but in them days I was there, if you were a lifer, active on the main line, you were never going to get out. And we all knew it. So it was best us protecting those that were going home, right? If they came back and whatever, that's on them. We did our part. At least that's how I felt, right? Making a camarada, not slamming a camarada and breaking him. But anyways, after a while, the homie got the thanks. I was giving thanks, and that's how I came across of crossing paths with Givy, right? Which I will later touch on a better or worse story later on in the bay with him. I just thought I would put this out. You see, first and foremost, I was never nobody. I wasn't even per se a camarada like woohoo type of thing. No, but I always consider myself a camarada, and not by the sense of a pili. Pilis call us camaradas because we're under their wing. We're moving yards. we're moving people, we're trusted by them. But to me, camarada and all around thing is when another homie could come to you and say, hey, that's a true camarada right there. Because we lose sight that we're sureños, campoleros, and we minimize our own gente to please people that say they're M, they're no longer sureños. But I just thought I would touch on this. The message in this or the end look is you see, you could go in, try to do your time, and go home. But prison is prison. There's always up and downs. That means write ups. That means you crossing paths with a certain Billy, right? He might be Firmes, he might be a Tecato, he might be a Dolphin. And next thing you know, you holding tough for the causa over dope, over anger by one of these individuals. You could be stuck. Believe me, that's not the place to be stuck. It wasn't when the shoes were open. Because you're going to go sit down literally in a box, right? Trying to stay relevant. Now, just think about it. This happened from long ways, from Pelican Bay to Corcoran, from a Pili in Pelican Bay to a Pili that had Corcoran, right? You know, I was willing to get checked, stabbed, whatever already had coming my way, because I knew better. I'll just leave it at that, right? And it wasn't my business. But imagine now you hitting a yard and you have them two Pilis in the same yard, one pulling you one way, the other one pulling you the other way. You can't say no to either of them. So what's your next step? Where are you gonna put yourself in the spot of? That's why again, I'll never get tired of saying, stay true to those that deserve it, that they have respect and the utmost care for you. Most importantly, remember, respect and stay true to yourself, loyal to your loved ones.
This is so we started. We always